Justice Anthony Kennedy on the Supreme Court. The president telling reporters that he would likely make up his mind between late tonight or possibly tomorrow before noon, and saying that there were 4 leading candidates. Listen to this, President Trump departing from Bedminster just a few moments ago.
But I'm very close to making a decision. Have not made it official yet, obviously. Have not made it final, but we're very close to making a decision.
How many people are you deciding between?
Well, it's still, let's say it's the 4 people, and they're excellent. Everyone, you can't go wrong. But I'm getting very close to making a final decision. I'll probably be decided tonight or tomorrow sometime by 12 o'clock, and I think we're going to all be meeting at 9 o'clock. And we have a great country, folks. We have a great country. Thank you very much.
That was the extent of what the president revealed, but it does coincide with what we've heard from sources over the weekend. One White House source indicating that President Trump was still fielding calls while here in Bedminster about the Supreme Court pick, though that source would not indicate specifically who the president had spoken to. As far as those 4 leading candidates, that also sort of coincides with some of our reporting. We know that there are 3 strong contenders out there that sources have pointed to, including Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Raymond Kethledge. The 4th could potentially be Thomas Hardiman, who was the runner-up during the last Supreme Court vacancy after the passing of Antonin Scalia, when President Trump ultimately picked Neil Gorsuch to fill that seat. Of course, all of this is happening as there is a brewing legal fight between the president's attorneys and the special counsel. This weekend, Rudy Giuliani laid out very specific terms for the special counsel to meet in order to get the interview that Robert Mueller has been requesting with President Trump. Giuliani essentially saying that the special counsel has to provide evidence that would lead to a suspicion of wrongdoing of President Trump. Giuliani spoke with Dana Bash this morning on State of the Union on CNN. He essentially said that he was expecting Robert Mueller not to meet those demands and potentially to file a subpoena to try to comply, to force the president to comply with an interview request. Listen to Giuliani's response here.
I have no idea what he's going to do. I think if he does, we could have the subpoena quashed. To subpoena the president, never been done successfully in the history of this country. There is very, very strong law that the president cannot be subjected to criminal process. There's very good argument, the OLC opinion governing Mueller says that, but certainly constitutional law may say it. The reality is that we have a very strong argument that they haven't made a case for an interview.
Now, Joe, this is all happening as the president has a jam-packed schedule this week, not only with that Supreme Court announcement coming at prime time tomorrow at 9 p.m., but also his trip to Europe to meet with NATO allies and his one-on-one sit-down with Russian President Vladimir Putin. As this Russia investigation is unfolding, it continues to be a cloud over this administration, as all eyes will be on Helsinki next week, Joe.
So much to think about, but on the plate immediately is that Supreme Court pick, and anybody who tells you what the president is thinking probably doesn't know what they're talking about, unless it's the president himself. And we know how. Right. Thanks so much for that, Boris Sanchez.
That's right, Joe.
We have new developments on the crisis of the border and the separation of young children from their parents. CNN has learned the Trump administration has now handed over the names of nearly 100 of those children under the age of 5 who've been separated from their parents trying to cross the border. CNN's Miguel Marquez joins us now from Brownsville, Texas, where some of those released migrant parents are desperately trying to track down their children. Miguel, what do we know about this list?
Well, this list is part of that lawsuit in California. The judge asked the government for that list. They turned it over. The ACLU now has that list. ACLU will go through that list to see if there is any help that they can provide in trying to track down some of these parents as well. They say they have tons of volunteers who have been trying to help track these individuals down because the government says it does not know where all these parents are. The ones that are in custody, they know about. The kids that are in custody, they know about. The ones that have been deported or the ones that have been released, they don't know about. And increasingly, we are seeing individuals here in South Texas who have bonded out on their asylum claim. We spoke to 5 family members, parents, who are now desperately searching for their kids. I want to show you a little bit of what that looks like and sounds like.
Ya, fuerte, muy fuerte. Es que solo Dios sabe lo que hemos vivido.
That is a mother who has been separated from her 6-year-old for over a month. It was difficult to speak to her because every time we started to speak, she just started to cry. She is clearly just traumatized by this entire process. Another mother who came to actually see her 10-year-old. She got out of detention about 72 hours ago. She came to this facility in Brownsville to see her 10-year-old. She saw him for an hour. They would not let her take him home. Says it's going to be at least a month process before she can do that. She is beside herself, Joe.
And with good reason, I would say. Thank you so much for that, Miguel Marquez. We will continue to bring you the latest developments out of Thailand on the rescue of the remaining 8 boys and their coach trapped in a cave. Also ahead, Puerto Rico, still recovering from Hurricane Maria, is bracing for another storm, and no one is taking chances. 4 of their teammates have already been rescued after being trapped for more than 2 weeks, but the rescue mission has been put on hold as divers refill their oxygen tanks. And it's certainly a race against time. Monsoon rains, for one thing, hit the area after the first rescues and show no signs of slowing down. CNN meteorologist Ivan Cabrera joins me now. How long do they have before the storms really begin impacting this mission, if you know, Ivan?
Hours, I think, at this point here. I mean, it's just continuing to downpour, Joe, across the area. And tomorrow we have more rain in the forecast. Keep in mind, when we talk about rain in this part of the world, it's monsoon season. So it's the kind of rain that falls very heavily. We could get 1, 2, 3 inches an hour across the region. And that's what's been happening here. So we're going to watch this very closely. Mountainside and to the north as well. All that water draining down south. Now, generally, one of our computer model forecasts forecasting about the 1/2 inch a day. We could easily get more than that, right? And once again, it doesn't have to fall right on top of the cave system to funnel in there. And that's exactly how the caves were formed. Look at this forecast here. The next 7 days. That is not good. A lot of colors there indicating the potential for 6 to 10 inches of rainfall. So this is why the urgency has now been ramped up. We got to get the boys out of there quickly before that cave begins to fill with more and more water. They're pumping out water, but they're going to lose the battle as far as that goes because of how much rainfall we're talking about here. The other thing I watch this time of year, this part of the world, South China Sea and the Western Pacific, it is typhoon season. We do not want a tropical system to get pulled in there. That's not going to happen. We do have this super typhoon that's going to be headed up towards China, but that's not going to be impacting the cave at all. Now, we are also, of course, in the Atlantic hurricane season. There's Beryl. It was a tropical storm, maybe this morning. At this point, it's just a remnant low. Basically, the forecast we had talked about. So this is a rain event for the islands here, and we're going to continue to see this pushing off to the north and west. I'll show you the forecast track here. It's done. I mean, there is no forecast track. What I'm looking for is the rainfall that is going to be headed towards Puerto Rico. I mean, if you're still living with a blue tarp on your house, it's going to be tested, I think, the next few days because we do have that tropical rain for the next 24 to 48 hours. It is not going to arrive as a tropical storm, certainly not a hurricane, but just, I think, one of the first few tests of how things are going to bear out in Puerto Rico with a lot of folks still in structures that really are barely standing at this point. So we'll keep you posted on that. But the good news is here is that Beryl is no more. Joe.
Thank you for that. You know, I got to say, that graphic move you made right there, only through the miracle of television can you go all the way around the world with the flick of a button.
We cover it all, absolutely.
It's pretty amazing. All right, thank you so much for that, Ivan. Even though Tropical Storm Beryl is getting weaker, no one is taking any chances in Puerto Rico, where they're still recovering from Hurricane Maria. CNN's Leila Santiago now joins us from San Juan. And Leila, that storm is expected to hit tomorrow that we just saw on the graphic.
Right.
What are residents doing to prepare?
Well, listen, a lot of people are still very anxious, still recovering from Hurricane Maria, and so they're still kind of wondering what will happen with Beryl when it comes to Puerto Rico. The government has said, do not let your guard down. Yes, this is weakening, but make sure you have what you need. As I have talked to folks, they have water, they have batteries, they are prepping, not taking any chances, as you said. But here's the problem. You see this right behind me? You see all those tarps that are still on the roofs of homes. This is in Cantera, San Juan, Puerto Rico, an area that really is prone to flooding. This is the problem. This is what a lot of people are worried about. The governor saying that there are still 60,000 homes in Puerto Rico that still have these blue tarps on them. And that is a concern because, as you just heard, this will be the test. They really can't take several inches of rain. And then there's the power situation. The governor of Puerto Rico has said that this power grid is more vulnerable today than it was before Hurricane Maria, than it was before Hurricane Irma. Still today, more than 1,500 customers of the Power Authority do not have power because Maria wiped that out. And many people have just had power restored in the last month or 2 months. So many people, while they are getting ready, making sure they have that water, the food, the batteries, whatever they can to prepare, many people are concerned that the infrastructure here will not hold, that will be the biggest concern. Now, there are shelters, about 24 shelters. Mayors have requested to have them opened up. I'm being told that there still are pretty small numbers of people who have been going to the shelters, but many officials urging folks that if you are in an area that is prone to flooding, if you have a tin roof, if you still have a blue tarp, seek shelter because this is an island that is very much vulnerable, and something as small as a tropical storm or something much less could have a big impact.
Leila Santiago, thanks so much for that. Prayers for Beryl, Tropical Storm Beryl, to give Puerto Rico a break.
Color of his skin, the part of town that he was born into, the schools that he had access to,